It just really takes me back. I mean, I can still remember my last day at The Daily Show like it was yesterday. I can't put it into words, but I can put it into flashback.
There was no expectation that Stephen Colbert would be successful on The Daily Show. That is, not in the manner in which he did it. His wit was so razor-sharp that it made him stand out. Behind the laughter, however, was an unrelenting pressure to live up to the sky-high expectations that were placed on him, which nearly pushed him to his limits. Even for him, did his satirical persona cause him to blur the lines between comedy and reality through his actions? What was the defining moment that caused Jon Stewart to recognize the potential that Stephen Colbert possessed and allow him to take the leap? Join us as we explore the courageous choices that led to Stephen Colbert becoming a respected figure in the late-night television industry. The narrative that revolves around Stephen Colbert's early years. Nobody knew that they were looking at the future of political satire when Stephen Colbert walked into the studios of Comedy Central in the year 1997. Colbert was so unknown among the cast and crew of The Daily Show that they kept forgetting his name. He was the nervous new guy on the show. However, that was about to change in ways that are beyond anyone's ability to anticipate. While Craig Kilborn was still serving as the host of The Daily Show, Colbert joined the show during its second season. He had just recently emerged from the improv scene in Chicago. Once upon a time, the show's primary focus was on making fun of popular culture rather than politics. It was only 3 other correspondents, including Colbert, who would venture out to film segments that were a humorous imitation of serious network news reports. In the beginning, things were not simple. The label of new guy remained attached to Colbert for a period of 2 years, which meant that he had to continually demonstrate his worth. On the other hand, everything changed in 1999 when Jon Stewart became the host of the show. Stewart recognized that Colbert possessed a rare talent for transforming serious news into intelligent comedy without sacrificing the message she was trying to convey. As a result of Stewart's leadership, The Daily Show started addressing more significant issues, particularly during the presidential election of the year 2000. Because of this, Colbert was able to discover his true voice. In his own words, he was a well-intentioned, poorly informed, high-status idiot. He created a character that would forever change comedy, a conservative news pundit who was hilariously pompous and who was a high-status idiot. The commitment that Colbert had to the character was what set him apart from other actors. While the other correspondents conducted interviews in a straightforward manner, Colbert would purposefully play the role of the foolish expert. He would expose the absurdity that exists in politics and the media by employing clever wordplay and ridiculous logic. When other correspondents joined the show, they openly admitted that they had copied his style because his segments became so popular. Rob Corddry and Ed Helms are 2 examples of those correspondents. The partnerships that Colbert formed with other correspondents were responsible for some of the most memorable moments in his career. His Even Stefan debates with Steve Carell became instant classics, with both comedians releasing hilarious anger at each other rather than discussing the actual topics that were being discussed. During his segment titled This Week in God, which featured a rotating God machine, he addressed the latest religious news with an appropriate amount of both respect and ridicule. In the background, Colbert was engaged in activities that went beyond merely performing. As a result of his tendency towards perfection, which would later prove to be beneficial to him, he wrote and edited the majority of his own pieces. His laborious efforts were rewarded when the election coverage that he provided for The Daily Show, which included his field reports from both the Democratic and Republican conventions, was recognized with multiple awards. Recognition was brought about as a result of the success of the show, and Colbert's abilities were not overlooked. In his capacity as a writer for The Daily Show, he was honored with 3 Emmys between the years 2004 and 2006. He was developing a distinctive voice that connected with viewers, which was perhaps the most important aspect of his work. Colbert was able to expose political absurdities while concealing his true feelings behind a mask of fake sincerity thanks to his character, in contrast to Stewart, who hosted the conversation as himself. In 2002, when Colbert filled in for Stewart as host for a week, nobody questioned whether he could handle the responsibility. By 2005, Colbert had become such an important part of The Daily Show that nobody questioned his ability to handle the role. The Daily Show would continue to air his segments under the title Classic Colbert, even after he had left the show for a number of years because of how popular they were. The most remarkable aspect of Colbert's tenure at The Daily Show was not simply the fact that he was a funny person. Rather, it was the way in which he altered the concept of political comedy. When Colbert was not around, the majority of political humor was straightforward. Comedians would make jokes about the situation while also pointing out what was happening. Colbert, on the other hand, demonstrated that it is possible to make a more compelling argument about why something is incorrect by actually pretending to agree with something that is ridiculous. It was through this strategy that Colbert would eventually come up with the idea for the Colbert Report. But it was during his time at The Daily Show that he was able to hone his craft and become more skilled. By collaborating with Jon Stewart, he was able to assist in the transformation of what was initially a straightforward news parody show into an indispensable political commentary that could make people laugh while simultaneously stimulating their thought processes. A nervous new guy from 1997 would go on to become one of the most influential voices in television, proving that sometimes the best way to tell the truth is to pretend to be someone who never does. It is difficult to imagine now, but that nervous new guy would go on to become one of the most influential voices in television. After 8 years of playing a clueless conservative correspondent on The Daily Show, what would happen if Stephen Colbert took this character and gave him his entire show? What would happen? The Colbert Report made its debut on Comedy Central on October 17, 2005, which was the day that television audiences finally got their answer to the question of how satire had forever altered the medium of television. Not only was the show a spin-off, but it also represented an entirely fresh approach to the genre of political comedy. Instead of merely making fun of news programs such as Hannity and The O'Reilly Factor, Colbert transformed himself into a funhouse mirror version of the hosts he was making fun of. It was Jon Stewart, Stephen Colbert, and Ben Carlin, the producer, who recognized that Colbert's character on The Daily Show appeared to take on a life of its own. This is where the idea originated. The Daily Show was primarily concerned with the news of the day, whereas the Colbert Report took a different approach. In doing so, it brought attention to the absurd personality of the host himself, which was a strategy that quickly proved to be extremely effective. The audience adored it. The Colbert Report was able to attract 1.2 million viewers each night during its very first week of broadcasting. Colbert was quickly signed to a long-term contract by Comedy Central, which recognized that they had struck gold with their decision. The program had accomplished something that is not often seen on television. It came up with its own one-of-a-kind format in which no one else could replicate it. What made the show unique was the way in which Colbert incorporated aspects of his own life into his character. His actual passions included science fiction, The Lord of the Rings, and Catholic theology. Despite the fact that he played a right-wing pundit, he would frequently make references to these things. It was through this deft combination of fact and fiction that his character came to feel more dynamic and unpredictable. The only aspect of his real life that he typically concealed was his education and experience in the theater and comedy. There was a claim made by his character that he had attended Dartmouth College rather than Northwestern University. Because of the special segments, the show gained a lot of popularity. On the show The Word, Colbert would make absurd arguments while text on the screen would covertly reveal the truth. It was Better Know a District that commissioned him to conduct interviews with actual members of Congress, many of whom were unaware that they were being a part of the joke. Several of his words, such as truthiness, which means having the conviction that something is true despite the absence of evidence, were eventually included in the dictionary. The world that the character inhabits was meticulously maintained by Colbert and his team, who worked tirelessly behind the scenes. It was necessary for every interview, segment, and joke to be effective on two levels. Both what the character believed he was saying and what the audience was aware was actually being communicated by the character. Because of this double layer of comedy, the show was not only funny, but also intelligent. During the episodes in which Colbert brought his character into the real world, some of the show's most memorable moments occurred. The speech that he gave at the White House Correspondents' Dinner in 2006, in which he roasted President Bush while standing right next to him, became legendary. As a result of his brief run for president in 2007, which was limited to South Carolina, he was able to successfully raise money for educational institutions. Even Marvel Comics joined in on the fun by including posters for the Colbert campaign in their Spider-Man comics and other publications. With the passage of time, the Colbert Report evolved into something that was more than just a comedy show. It became a touchstone in the cultural canon. In spite of the fact that they were aware that they might be included in the joke, politicians and celebrities regarded the opportunity to be interviewed by Colbert as a privilege. In recognition of its outstanding performance in the realm of broadcasting, the show was awarded a number of Emmy Awards and even 2 Peabody Awards. On December 18, 2014, the final episode was broadcast, and it was the ideal way to conclude the series.
NASA has found methane on Mars, though I believe it originated from Uranus. This is the Colbert Report.
However, prior to Colbert, to perform the song "We'll Meet Again," Colbert enlisted the participation of a remarkable collection of well-known friends, including Willie Nelson and Henry Kissinger. Even Big Bird made an appearance. It was an appropriate conclusion to a show that had altered the way in which people in the United States watched and thought about political comedy. It was not just the fact that the Colbert Report was funny that made it such a remarkable show. The reason for this was that it educated viewers to engage in critical thinking about the manner in which news and politics were carried out on television. Colbert was able to assist people in comprehending the necessity of questioning what they observed on television by giving the impression that he was exactly what he was criticizing. When the show came to an end, Colbert had spent 9 years acting in a manner that was consistent with his character. He had created something that had never been seen before in the history of television, a show in which the joke became more clever as it persisted for a longer period of time, and in which playing a fool somehow made everyone a little bit wiser. Given that Stephen Colbert has spent the past 9 years portraying a bombastic conservative character, is it possible for him to demonstrate to the American people that he is just as compelling if he simply is himself? From satirical armor to late-night luminary, the answer came on September 8, 2015, when the Colbert took over The Late Show from David Letterman. This event marked one of the most significant gambles that television has ever taken. On this occasion, in contrast to his previous shows, Colbert would be facing his audience without his well-known character serving as a shield. Rather, he would be sitting behind one of the most well-known desks in television. It was a significant development. Colbert took The Late Show in a more political direction, in contrast to Letterman's Late Show, which had been more focused on celebrity chats and silly stunts. It was not a movie star who was promoting their most recent film who was his first guest. It was George Clooney, and they spent a significant portion of their time talking about serious issues while occasionally joking about them. During the production of the show, Colbert was working on something that was much more than a simple talk show. Taking inspiration from a species of grass that is indigenous to his home state of South Carolina, he established Spartina Productions. It was through this company that he started producing other shows, such as Fairview and Tuning Out the News. One of his most innovative creations, however, was Scripto, a specialized piece of software that he developed in collaboration with writer Rob Dubbin. Scripto facilitates collaboration among comedy writers who are located in different locations. 23 years ago, when the Writers Guild of America went on strike, The Late Show encountered its greatest obstacle. Instead of completely disappearing from the air, Colbert collaborated with other late-night hosts, including Jimmy Fallon, Seth Meyers, Jimmy Kimmel, and John Oliver, to produce a podcast that they called Strike Force 5. There was more to the show than just providing entertainment. Individuals on their staff who were unable to work as a result of the strike received assistance from this. Colbert's hardiness was put to the test by health difficulties. In the year 2020, he disclosed that he had developed vertigo, a condition that causes individuals to experience the sensation that the room is spinning. On the air, he made a joke about it, saying that it is just about entertaining until I forget about it. After that, I proceed to stand up. I then simply collapse to the ground. The pandemic caused by COVID-19 struck him twice, initially in April of 2022, and then once more in October of 2023. However, the most difficult medical emergency he ever faced occurred in November 2023, when his appendix ruptured while he was taping a show.
Last time I was doing The Late Show, almost 3 weeks ago, I had to get an emergency surgery for a ruptured appendix.
The ever-professional individual made an effort to conceal his discomfort while conducting an interview with the celebrity chef Jose Andres. However, the chef's enthusiastic dance moves during a cooking segment did not work to his advantage. Colbert has been able to keep his sharp political commentary throughout all of these challenges, while also adding more personal touches to the show. When it comes to discussing serious subjects, he does not shy away from displaying emotion and frequently tells stories about his loved ones and his family. As a result of his authenticity, he has been able to establish a different kind of connection with his audience than he did on the Colbert Report. Additionally, the show has shown a willingness to embrace innovation. In the course of the pandemic lockdown, Colbert filmed episodes from his residence, with the assistance of his wife Evie on occasion. When he went back to the studio, he brought a fresh perspective to the conventional late-night format by combining thoughtful interviews with prominent political figures with light-hearted segments featuring famous people from the entertainment industry. During the year 2024, Colbert had expanded his influence even further by becoming a producer of After Midnight, a late-night comedy panel game show that was produced by CBS. He did this alongside his wife. In addition to this, he has maintained his dedication to charitable acts and social causes, making use of his platform to bring attention to matters that are important to him. It is remarkable that Colbert has been able to maintain his sharp political wit while revealing more of his genuine personality on The Late Show. This is what makes his evolution on the show so remarkable. The man who used to conceal himself behind a character is now able to sit comfortably in his own skin, creating a balance between serious commentary and genuine warmth and humor. When viewed in retrospect, the transition from the Colbert Report to The Late Show was not simply a matter of transitioning between different time slots or networks. It told the story of an entertainer who had the courage to remove his mask and have faith that his true self could be just as captivating as his famous character. Colbert has demonstrated that authenticity can be just as powerful as satire by doing so through a variety of situations, including national crises, personal health challenges, and industry strikes. During the time that Stephen Colbert was able to find his genuine voice on The Late Show, many people were curious about how a comedian who had previously asserted that he was not particularly political could have become one of the most influential political commentators in the United States. Reagan's roots transform into a revolutionary late-night act. The journey that Stephen Colbert has taken is extremely fascinating. Back when he was a student at Northwestern University, he was a supporter of Ronald Reagan and adhered to conservative ideas that were prevalent during that time period. On the other hand, his perspectives began to shift as he became more involved in theater and began to think more critically. Not only did he start to question the characters he was portraying on stage, but he also started to question the political stories and ideas that were going on around him. As the development of Colbert's thinking progressed, he began to investigate a wider variety of ideas, which resulted in a shift in his political views towards the left. The ways in which power, the media, and public opinion all interact with one another became a topic that piqued his interest more. The advice that he gave to his students who were learning improv demonstrated this new perspective. He strongly suggested that they read the works of Noam Chomsky, who is a well-known critic of the power that corporations and governments wield. By suggesting that they investigate Chomsky's ideas, Colbert demonstrated his growing interest in challenging conventional viewpoints and questioning more significant issues that are prevalent in society. The fact that Colbert is willing to criticize all sides is what sets him apart from other people. During the time that he was in office, he voiced his opposition to the use of drone strikes and surveillance methods by the National Security Agency. His brief foray into politics began in 2007 when he launched a presidential campaign in his home state of South Carolina. In 2016, when Hillary Clinton ran for president, he did not hold back, describing her as someone who exemplified the widespread systemic corruption that exists in Washington, District of Columbia. The campaign was intended to be satirical, but it ended up having a significant impact. By utilizing DonorsChoose.org, it was able to raise a total of $68,000 for South Carolina schools. Despite the fact that the campaign had come to an end, Marvel Comics continued to keep it alive in their universe by including posters for the Colbert campaign in Spider-Man comics. When it comes to contemporary issues, Colbert takes a firm stance. He is in favor of Medicare for all because he believes it to be a reasonable alternative to Obamacare. In addition to establishing himself as a pro-choice advocate, he has expressed his support for the elimination of the United States Senate. Recently, he has been very vocal about the conflict between Israel and Palestine, and he has called for a ceasefire in Gaza following a tragic attack on employees of aid organizations. In addition, he has advocated for the rights of pro-Palestine college protesters, highlighting the First Amendment rights they possess. There have been numerous instances in which Colbert's political statements have prompted strong reactions, including international repercussions. In 2023, Russia made headlines when it permanently banned him from entering the country. The charge against him was that he, along with 500 other Americans, had spread attitudes that were hostile towards Russia. Colbert's outspoken criticism of Russian policies and actions, which he addresses with his usual sharp wit and honesty, prompted this move, which came as a response to Colbert's criticism. Colbert approached the ban with a sense of humor, making use of the situation in his late-night monologues, rather than viewing it as a setback. He made light of the absurdity of being added to the list, thereby generating an opportunity to amplify his message by turning something that could have silenced him into a source of amusement. When it comes to Colbert, the ban served to further solidify his position as a commentator who is not afraid to speak the truth to power, even when the issues at hand are global in scope. Colbert is unfazed by the critical issues that he continues to voice his opinions on, ranging from international conflicts to human rights. Regardless of the criticism he receives, he continues to be committed to using his platform to voice his opinions on controversial subjects, whether through satire or direct commentary. It was during the writers' strike of 2023 that he demonstrated his unwavering support for workers' rights. It was stated by him that he was a member of the Guild and that he was in favor of collective bargaining. He continued by saying that the nation owes a great deal to labor unions. This wasn't just empty words. He proved his point by producing content to show his support for his employees while they were on strike. As a result of Stephen Colbert's fearless approach to political issues and his ability to shape public opinion, many fans are left wondering, what kind of person is Stephen Colbert when the cameras stop rolling? A family man with strong values and a deep connection to his roots. Stephen Colbert, the person behind the persona. Stephen Colbert is a family man who deeply connects to his roots and possesses strong values. His personal life is centered on a love story that has the feel of something that would be found in a more traditional romance. Evelyn Evie McGee Colbert has been his wife since 1993, and their marriage has been an essential component of his life. He has been married to her for several years. In Charleston, South Carolina, they had a chance encounter that Colbert frequently refers to as love at first sight. This occasion marked the beginning of their story. The first time the two people met was at a theater premiere, which was an event that neither of them had anticipated would forever alter the course of their lives. When they started talking to each other, it was almost as if they were being led by destiny. They quickly found out that they had grown up in the same town, attended the same schools, and even had a large number of friends we had in common. In reality, what could have been a brief encounter turned out to be the beginning of a relationship that would last a lifetime. There is more to Evie than just being Colbert's wife for him. He relies on her as a trusted confidant and also draws inspiration from her. In spite of the frenetic pace of late-night television, she is frequently regarded as the person who assists him in maintaining his sense of equilibrium. Their 3 children currently reside in Montclair, New Jersey, where they have made their home. But things haven't always gone according to plan in my life. Colbert struggled with both anxiety and depression throughout his time at Second City and during his time as a college student. He experimented with medication for a short period of time, but in the end, he decided to work through his difficulties by concentrating on performing and creating. Faith plays a significant part in Stephen Colbert's life, contributing to the formation of his personal beliefs as well as his public persona. Prayer, community, and introspection are the means by which he maintains his connection to his faith as a practicing Catholic, and he uses it as a compass to direct his life. In addition to this, Colbert is also an ordained minister with the Universal Life Church Monastery. He serves in this capacity on occasion to preside over weddings and other special events. His broad and adaptable perspective on life is demonstrated by the fact that he is open to various forms of ministry while also maintaining a traditional faith. When he is not in the public eye, Colbert devotes his time to reading, which is another one of his passions. His literary preferences range from the expansive epics of J.R.R. Tolkien to the visionary worlds of Isaac Asimov. He is so passionate about books that he has declared himself a book lover. The works of science fiction, fantasy, and philosophy that he has on his bookshelf are particularly noteworthy because they provide him with both an escape and intellectual stimulation. The combination of a deep devotion to one's religion and an insatiable curiosity is more than just a characteristic of the individual. Quite frequently, it is incorporated into his work. Colbert's ability to reflect the depth of his inner life through his screen presence is reflected in the seamless weaving together of thought-provoking ideas and sharp humor. In his commentary, he frequently reveals his passion for storytelling as well as his exploration of moral and ethical themes. This is true whether he is analyzing a political scandal or sharing a humorous anecdote. It is precisely this singular combination of faith, intellect, and creativity that enables him to connect with audiences on a profoundly human level, which in turn causes his work to resonate in a manner that extends far beyond the realm of comedy. Stephen Colbert's resilience has been put to the test in recent years, as he has been confronted with a number of health challenges that could have brought anyone's spirits down, but no one has been affected by them. He disclosed in the year 2020 that he had been diagnosed with benign positional vertigo, a condition that is characterized by sudden episodes of dizziness and disorientation. In keeping with his usual manner, Colbert responded to the news with his signature sense of humor, even making jokes about his shifting perspective while delivering monologues. Colbert suffered from multiple bouts of COVID-19 during the time that the world was struggling to cope with the pandemic. Although each bout of the virus took its toll, it never stifled his desire to connect with audiences. Even though he was experiencing physical difficulties, he continued to be dedicated to his show. He frequently broadcast from his home while entertaining his audience with relatable stories about his recovery. Then, in the year 2023, yet another health emergency occurred, which was a ruptured appendix that required immediate surgical intervention. Colbert once again found a way to turn the ordeal into material for his late-night segments, despite the fact that the experience was something that was taken very seriously. He was able to transform moments of personal hardship into moments of levity and relatability by openly discussing the difficulties, discomfort, and even absurdities that he encountered during his medical experiences. Despite everything that has happened, Colbert has managed to keep his sense of humor and his optimism intact. He has used laughter as a means of coping with the situation and as a way to connect with his audience on a more profound level. Not only has his capacity to find light in the darkest moments not only made him more endearing to fans, but it has also highlighted the resiliency and authenticity that define his persona, both on and off the screen. He and his wife have a relationship that goes beyond the confines of the home. Moreover, they are creative collaborators. They work together to develop Scripto, a piece of software for television writers, and they also collaborated on the writing of a cookbook that features Low Country cuisine. Furthermore, Evie holds the position of president of the board of directors at the Montclair Film Festival, where Stephen frequently organizes events and facilitates conversations with well-known actors and directors. Colbert's ability to maintain a healthy equilibrium between his personal and professional lives is what sets him apart from other people. In a field that is notorious for its artificiality, he has been able to maintain his sense of reality by relying on his family, his faith, and his intellectual curiosity. On his show, he took a Myers-Briggs personality test, and the results indicated that he is an INFP, which is a type of person who leads with their values and their inner feelings. In spite of all of his achievements, Colbert has never lost touch with the things that are most important to him, including his family, his creative endeavors, and the use of his platform to make a difference. Stephen Colbert's comedic voice was shaped in what ways by the struggles he faced? Is it possible that Richard Colbert's satirical character is his way of retaliating against the more negative aspects of fame? Provide us with your feedback in the comment section that can be found below. Remember that you should subscribe, like, and share this post. How are you doing?